all is well, and it runs quite nice.
Well,
Right.
sounds bloody beautiful.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, welcome to a new Dave's Workshop Tours video, and as you can see, I'm back at Maranello Pur-sang in Melbourne. This time with Giancarlo, who's working on an Alfa Romeo Spider, so let's get straight to it. Okay, Giancarlo, what have we got going on here?
Good morning. What we've got here is an Alfa Spider. We've actually just redid the head on this one. What we're doing is we're going to retension the head because after 500 kilometres the head needs to be retention, and there's a process that we need to go through. So what I'm doing, I'm sort of halfway through it. I've actually set everything up, so what we need to do is release the head bolts, lubricate them and retorque them in a sequence. So, but they have to be at a specific torque. So what I'm going to do is I'm halfway through it already, so I've already done about 4. So I'll show you the process, what we're going to sort of go through to retorque in the head. So normally what we do is actually we loosen the bolt. So we've got to go in a sequence that it's got to be that one, then it's got to go diagonally, that one, that one, that one, that one, then that, then that, then that, then that. The reason we've got to do this is because it's aluminium and we don't want to warp the head. So and we've got to do it one at a time and make sure the engine's going to be cold, stone cold. Normally what we do is get the client to drop it off the night before, leave it overnight, so first thing in the morning when everything's nice and cold we can start the process and retension the head. So I've done 4 already, so we're on our 5th one. So what we do is we actually loosen the bolt. Normally in some cases you need to drain the water, but this one we're very lucky because the water's not coming up through the studs. Normally what happens is when you loosen the studs you'll get water coming up, coolant coming up through the studs. But for some reason these seem to be sealed off, so we need to put a little bit of lubricant underneath the washer and the nut. The reason we do that is because it's aluminium and it binds. Right, so that way it doesn't catch and it gives us a true reading. So what we need to do is tighten that to a specific torque, which is 90 Newton meters. And you'll hear the torque wrench click. So we know we're home. So now we have to go into the next one, which I've loosened already. A bit of oil.
It's a very clean engine, this one.
Yeah, well, it's actually the whole engine's been well, the top end has been redone, so that's why it's all nice and clean. It's had new valves, head machine. All the valve clearances have been redone. Okay, that's done. So as we see, we need to go to the next one. It's very critical that you put oil underneath the washer and the nut so it doesn't bind. You'll hear that torque wrench. I do it about 2 or 3 times just to make sure that it's where it's sort of home.
So what would the driver have been experiencing to know that this needed doing?
Oh, it would have, it overheated. So it blew the head gasket.
Oh, right.
So it was boiling. So that's why we had to we did what they call a cylinder leakage test. So what we do is we put air compression into the cylinders, make sure it's on top dead center, with both valves closed, and we pump air into the cylinder, and then if there's a leakage, it comes up back through the cooling system. So the water in the radiator actually lifts up, so we know there's an internal combustion leak. And yeah, unfortunately, that's what happened to this one, so we had to pull it apart.
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's got a new radiator in there, as you can see.
That's quite an extensive job, this.
Yeah,
then.
well, very expensive. It's almost like a half an engine rebuild.
Yeah. After this, what's going to be required?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Once it's done, we can start it. And then he's just complaining that the idle's a little bit high, so we basically just need to adjust the carburetors a little bit. Because the problem is, if you don't do it, you can get away with it, but the problem is down the track when the engine cools down and warms up, the nuts actually come loose, right? Because the actual head gasket settles down, and they're not retorqued, so therefore there's an expansion, and will eventually blow the gasket again.
Is this a car that you've been looking after for a while?
Yeah, I've looked after for a while. No, actually, yeah. Well, this one probably about 3 years.
Right. Okay. Well looked after example itself,
He's
isn't it?
got a few in his collection.
Alphas in particular?
Yeah, he's got about 4 Alfas and a Ferrari.
Uh-huh.
Okay, this one should be the last one. Okay, that one's all good. So what I like to do is, we just like to go through the whole process again, just to double check that they're all home.
Torque wrenches have they always been around? I mean, it just seems to be
for years.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe it's just YouTube coming around it. You hear about it so
you
often
don't.
now.
You probably don't get to see a lot of people using torque wrenches these days.
I thought we'd get to see more of them because
Well, now.
Because of YouTube. I mean, before, yeah. I mean, it certainly wasn't a home something you'd have in your home garage.
No.
But now you're hearing about it so
backyard,
much on YouTube and such forth. It's like, oh crikey, I better get.
And being aluminium, that's when the torque wrench sort of really, you tend to sort of use it.
Sure.
Because this is a fully aluminium engine.
Uh-huh.
Just trying to see the firing order's correct, otherwise we're going to have an issue when we start it. So that's all good. Just make sure the coolant's all good. Yep, fine. Okay, now it should fire up.
The all important.
They tend to run a little bit rough when they're cold. They just need to warm up a little bit. But once they warm up, then we can do the proper adjustments.
So what next?
Okay, now that the engine's been running for about 10 minutes and we're at operating temperature, so what we're going to do is just readjust and check the mixtures. So what we're going to do is pop off the air filter. So what we're going to do is going to check the balancing between the front carburetor and the rear carburetor. So it has been balanced properly, but I just want to double check quickly, which we can using this to see that it's all good. That's about 5. Spot on. So that tells us that the two carburetors are in sync. So what we need to do now is just check the mixtures quickly, just to make sure, because he's complaining that the idle's a bit high. So by resetting the mixtures, then we can set the base idle to bring it down. So what I actually do is actually screw the individual mixture screws.
Come around and have a look on the other side with it.
So I'll just show you on one. What we normally do is we adjust the mixture screw, we turn it until the engine starts to run rough. You can hear there. And then we back it off until we get a sweet spot where it starts to sound nice. And what that does, it actually leans it and richens it. So normally you can count the number of turns you go in and come back out, and if they're virtually all the same, you know they're pretty even. And as you can hear, the engine's quite nice. Now that we've set that, we can actually bring the revs down a bit, because he's actually complaining that when it warms up, it's just idling too high. So that sounds about right. We'll just double check to see what it's actually. I think his tacho's a little bit out, but that sounds about right there.
The tacho could be a bit sticky inside, but
Yeah,
you can tell by
yeah,
your trained ear.
Yeah, because that's running about 900 to 1,000 RPMs, but it's saying about 15 because it's a cable driven. It's quite old and they're not very accurate, so I think you should be happy there. And that's it. Just need to put the filter back on and job's done.
Would that be, if he wanted that cable replaced, is that a...
Yeah, that's an easy fix. Yeah, it's just a matter of replacing the cable, which is, it's that one there. So it goes from the Speedo, and it goes all the way down to the front of the water pump. So it drives off the water pump. It's not electronic, it's still an old manual cable. And that's why especially when they get old, they sort of flicker a little bit and
Is it stretched?
a bit dry, yeah, the cable can be stretched, and the head of the tachometer can be a little bit dry and sticky. So, you know, but all is well, and it runs quite nice.
Well,
right?
Sounds bloody beautiful.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If classic Alfas are your thing, then you're definitely in the right place. If you haven't already, go back and watch this video to see how gear change issues and handling are fixed on an SZ. But definitely subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Alfa content to come. And please leave your comments below on anything channel related. It really does help me get a gauge on what sort of content you want.